Aloha, welcome to the Friday Marketing Jam Session. I'm Tom Gaddis. I'm here with Chris Byrne, who's currently crushing it at his agency while working a full-time job. So we're going to talk about that topic today. We're going to do some shout-outs. We're gonna have a good. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, it's Byrne. You got it.
Okay. I was like, as soon as I started to say it, I was like, wait a minute. Okay, all right, good. I want to make sure I didn't mess it up. So we're going to take your questions. We're just going to hang out here for the next hour and have a great Aloha Friday Marketing Jam Session. So grab a cool drink. I have a Sonic Diet Limeade today, so I'm going to be enjoying that as we go through the show. And then we'll see you back here in one momento.
It's time, the moment you've been waiting for. Get ready for the fastest 60 minutes of marketing strategies and tactics to grow and scale your business from anywhere in the world. After 167 agonizing hours, we've returned for a brand new Aloha Marketing Jam Session. And now, here are your hosts.
The crowd fired up for you to be here. So first of all, I mean, just soak it in for a minute. Just let it. Like sometimes I just like to sit and just soak it in for a minute. I wish I could bring that applause with me around places. I'm sure my family would love that. You know, I think that'd be great. You walk in and little wave, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So how's it going?
It's going good. I feel like I'm living the dream. Super busy, as you know about me, but so much opportunity out there, and it's really cool. Making some advancements, even celebrating the little wins. Things are going good. What's cool since we talked last, gosh, even my wife is like, you're really starting to grow this thing. This is getting serious. And to see that kind of buy-in with family and friends and stuff like that, it's just really rewarding. So, it's things are going good.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to dive into that, talk a little bit about it. Doran, I see your question about my mic levels. Is it too high or is it too low? Tell me. Josie says she's ready to go. Welcome, Josie. I see Jacqueline in here, Patty. Doran, answer me. I don't know what to do until you tell me. I mean, it's the same as it's always been on my set. Okay. All right. Oh, it says it's a little low. Maybe it's because I'm kind of far away from it. I'll move it back. I've been using this new mic. I don't know if I showed you guys this. Look at this, Chris. So this is this mic is designed to keep your levels the same no matter how far and close you go from it. And you can actually set it so that when you get a certain distance away, it automatically mutes. And then when you come back, it comes back on. So I've been testing it out. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it's not working as great. So awesome. So let's dive in. So let's talk a little bit, because you mentioned you feel like you're living the dream. I mean, isn't it exciting when the people around you start to see what you're like? Because I'm convinced that my wife just thought I was batshit crazy. Like this is is never gonna work. This is never gonna turn into anything. Like she was just humoring me, and she had just made peace with it wasn't gonna. It definitely couldn't replace a job.
Well, and that was kind of the thing too. Is it's not like I haven't been successful in my current career. And wildly more than I expected, and I attribute that to amazing business mentors and being connected. I didn't say, I don't feel like, oh, look what I went out and accomplished. It's like sometimes you get around the right people that have the right influence on you in your business life. And, I'm just very thankful for that. So it was not like, oh, hey, Chris, you need to do something for our family because you're not, like what we're doing isn't, and that's kind of why the question is like, well, Chris, what is the drive behind this? Why are you why are you going so hard at this? And it really came down to, it's like, one, tomorrow, as soon as, you know, things aren't profitable, you know, anything could happen with that. And I wanted something that was really kind of my own, and that I could make my own and stuff like that. And that's exactly what's happening. So it's
I mean, that's so awesome to hear. And I know you have a professional career, right? Do you mind saying what you do for a full-time career?
So this came up last time, and Dorn cracked me up. He compared me to the Bobs from Office Space, and I actually, Dorn, I see you're on. Like I think about that from time to time, and I just crack up, start laughing out of nowhere. But no, so I'm a consultant in a project management firm, and in companies that are going through transition. I go in and help them figure out what they need to do.
Yeah. Did you get the TPC reports?
Yeah, I still haven't found my stapler either.
You need to look at the TPC reports. I think.
Yeah.
So how many, so you're a consultant, and that's a full-time gig, right? Like, how many hours a week do you work doing that?
It's, 40 to 50. Sometimes it ebbs and flows. So it can go, Q3 and Q4 are just going to be insane. So right now I'm planning with that with my agency. My wife's looking to help out, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, but I actually have a team, which is amazing. I have a more robust team than I had before, and so I'm putting things in place. But 50 hours is not uncommon. I try to dial it down to 40, but that's not always realistic. And then, I work nationally. So I live in the Eastern time zone, but I'm also working West Coast hours and stuff like that. So making sure that I'm thoughtful about my hours. Like if I'm working on a dedicated account for, the West Coast and stuff like that, I'm more thoughtful about carving out that time in the morning, East Coast, so that, I can get my agency work done. I can get my exercise done. Maybe I'm not there to be with the kids for dinner, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm dropping them off to school, or I'm there for breakfast and stuff. So it's all over the map.
Well, I mean, and that's good that you think about that and you put some time in there. I want to step back to, like, when you first came into Remote Millionaires, like, what was your situation then?
Yeah. So, I mean, very much, gosh, I was just thinking about this before we jumped on the call. I remember where I was. I remember I was driving home from picking up Lebanese food right around December 10th, 2022. And I made the decision. I was like, I was doing research, and I just decided I'm launching a marketing agency.
So you had no client. You had no clients, right?
No clients.
No.
And I had decided, for a number of reasons. One, I wanted to inspire my daughters, and I was like, there's so much opportunity, and I was like, I can't do that if I haven't gone out and done that myself. The other thing is, wanting to make sure that I was building something that I may transition to full time someday. I wanted that option out there, so I made that decision, and then I figured out, okay, well, where do I start, right? So I think I started out doing social media marketing with offline sharks. I think Soci Spy was one of the first things.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I got into that. Couple months down the road, I was trying to reinvent the wheel, and I knew I had been around enough to know that I was trying to reinvent the wheel. So getting deeper into sharks was the logical choice. Remote Millionaires, I think, came around May or June of 2023, and kind of the rest was history. I had a couple clients before. I got a couple clients, and I grew them to a couple $1,000s each of services, but it wasn't really thoughtful around, okay, what services do I want to deliver in the long term, right? And so that's where I needed to kind of recalibrate. I would not have been able to scale. I was working really too hard for those two clients.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because, like, I remember, getting my agents off the ground, and when Nick was getting his agent off the ground, and it's like, I mean, you're really just flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Like there's no like there was very like it was. I mean, nothing was really done with intention. It was done out of necessity, right? Like we'd do something, we'd screw it up, we'd be like, oh God, we don't ever want to do that again. So like we'd be like, okay, we can't do that again. So then we'd change the way we do things. And you know, then Nick was really the one. Nick really, you know, kind of made this decision probably about a year in to when he was getting like when his agency just really started to get some traction. He just decided, you know, he just made this decision like I'm going to try to be very intentional and thoughtful about what I'm doing. And so he, you know, he started in, you know, and like what, you know, what we talk about with everybody here in the community about getting mentors and mentorship and all that stuff. Like, you know, we do all that stuff ourselves, you know, look, when we talk about looking at, well, where are the skills that or the areas where you maybe are not strong and how do you build those out? You know, early on, you know, like one of those areas for Nick was public speaking. He couldn't stand it, you know, doing sales, like talking to somebody in a sales type conversation, like totally just like didn't want to do it. And, you know, so he did a couple things. One, he joined Toastmasters so he could learn how to do public speaking. I think he's still a part of that. And then, you know, then he really started investing in like figuring out, like understanding sales and what's going on in those conversations and doing those kinds of things. And, you know, to this day, he's, you know, we still have a set of mentors and coaches that we turn to help us with stuff and things when we're struggling. And so I bring all that up because, you know, yeah, you can do it when you fly by the seat of your pants and you can get a little bit of traction. But it's way easier when you can follow a blueprint, a plan. Just like you're not going to be able to do it and I'm sure that you do not do it exactly like we do it because that's impossible. You're not us. Your situation's different. All the things are different. But just having that structure and knowing like, okay, well, I can, you know, here's the foundation of it. And then you kind of build out from there. I mean, it's such a huge thing. And you mentioned you weren't really doing things with intention there. So like, what kind of change out was it? Like, I guess what I want to ask about is like when you get in Remote Millionaires, obviously there's the training, there's all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
In Remote Millionaires, we had the coaching and the mentorship, like, you know, you have access to all that stuff. And then of course the SOPs. Like, what were some of the first things you started putting in place?
Oh, definitely seeing the big picture. And that honestly, I try to stick to the rule of threes. So, you know, number one was definitely the big picture, understanding the roadmap of how do I even scale? And then it was, you know, learning that eventually someday I want to remove myself from the business and actually thinking about that as kind of my waypoint for every decision I make. Now, along that way is the tactical side of things where, you know, those SOPs. And that's one of those things I, you know, wanted to share was those SOPs. I am still to this day slapping my own hand when I don't create an SOP for something. And I know it's so easy to get into, I'm just going to do this, perfect it, and then I'll do the SOP instead of saying, I'm going to write down the SOP as it is today, and I will revise it and tweak it as I go along. So those having in RM a set of SOPs already that I could sit and start working from, I mean, it was a huge catapult for me, right? And that's especially, again, for someone like me that is really time constrained, every next important step has to count, right? If I bring on a VA, I don't have time to sit down for an hour. I mean, that's my time in the day. Now I've been creeping towards 2 hours a day, to be honest with you, but you know, I've got to be able to hand off that SOP and it's just got to, and they got to get to work. Right. So that's probably one of the biggest things there. The next thing was how to set up a team. You know, it's funny. It's like I run teams of people and stuff like that. And I just felt so, I was like, but I don't know how to build a marketing agency team. And so that was, again, I mean, I don't know that that was any less important than the big picture. It's just learning how to set up the team, how to go onto different job boards, vet people out correctly in an industry that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. Give them tasks, figure out through the vetting process who is the best, bring them on, treat them well, and have somebody that was on the team for a good long time. Now I'm reaping the benefits of that being in place for well over a year. But that was huge as well.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things you said in that I really want to dig a little into. One is, for those of you that don't know, and sometimes I just take it for granted that like, oh, everybody knows what Chris is doing. Chris is building his agency and he really only works on it about an hour a day. So like, he's a really great example of how to get a lot done without, having to kill yourself time-wise, working a ton of hours. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But one of the things you mentioned in what you just said there was the shift in the thinking from like just dealing with the business today to making your decisions based on removing yourself from the business. And I think this is a huge mental shift that really gets kind of lost in the shuffle of all the other stuff that's going on. There are two things that, if I look back at what Nick and I did, that we did not, there are two things that we didn't do soon enough. Like we waited too long to do two of the most important things. One of them was start getting help by building a team. That was number one. Number two was thinking from the beginning about how you're going to remove yourself from the business, because you don't realize when you're like running the business and doing all that stuff, you don't realize how involved you are until you decide to remove yourself from it. And then you're like, we were like, well, how are we going to do that? Like, we're like super involved in it. Like, how are we going to remove ourselves from there? And so I think it took us longer to figure that out and to accomplish that goal. Whereas if we had come in from the get-go thinking like, okay, my goal is like, eventually I'm going to not want to do this. So like, how do I build these processes out as I'm doing them so that I can do that? And I think that's one of the big advantages of the things like, and I don't know who all was on the training that I did on Wednesday, the 6-figure side hustle training, right? Where we talked about SOPs and really how to take a side hustle and turn it into a 6-figure per month business. And that's one of the things, like the SOPs and all that stuff. That's what it really helps you with, right? It gives you that framework and that you go, oh, okay, when I have that, then I know how I'm going to be able to remove myself from this and work it out. So I think that. How many people are on your team right now?
I got to take a look at my tablet here. I knew you were going to ask me that. So I've got a web developer, 2 VAs, a social person. I got somebody, and now granted, this is not full-time work. They're a project, but I've got an SEO person doing link building, another doing Google profile tasks, map building, etc., that sort of stuff. And then I am looking to bring on kind of an SEO experienced VA, right? I've got a good SEO process, and that was something I knew I needed to add to my agency. I was just scared to do it because I was insecure that I could even deliver the results. So I took on some work doing it. I mean, it was close to pro bono at some point, but I did it last year knowing at this same time last year, like if I just follow the steps, I show some results, I get this done, I can start charging for it. And that's exactly what happened. And so now I'm at the point where I'm trying to remove myself from any of the fulfillment of that type of work, to include, I no longer want to be putting together month-end reports, right? That's what I'm looking to have this person do, as well as manage my Trello and Asana boards and stuff like that. So yeah, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but it's in a variable capacity.
Yeah, well, and I think that's something like a lot of people get confused on too. Is like, oh well, like how many? Like some people think, oh, I don't want to. Like that seems like a lot of people. I don't want to manage them, but again, like you have so much control over what to do and when to do in terms of like people can work on per project basis. Like you don't, especially in the beginning, like you don't want to have to worry about keeping up a payroll, right? Like in the beginning, that can be very stressful. So, following the kind of way we lay things out about building the Rolodex and doing the profit first, the profit first foundation stuff, like that really is a way to be able to leverage and take advantage of having a team without having to have a steady payroll and do all those things and all that stuff. And really it can be as big or as small as you want it, depending on, what you're doing, what services you're doing and all that kind of stuff. So man, that's awesome to see. That's awesome to see you doing all that.
Well, I was going to say something that kind of also was beneficial was, and Richie turned me on to this idea, is sharing a resource too. And that's like,
oh yeah,
that was this is kind of like 2.5 on the list. There is the network of sharks, right? And RMs. There's so much good idea sharing there. That has helped me become uber efficient, right? Is saying, okay, well, I've got this really good resource that's crushing it for me. They would like more hours and we have similar businesses. Let's work together and kind of share this resource. And everybody ends up winning, right? That shaves off time going out and vetting a new person. They're already a known and verified trusted quantity with somebody that you worked well with, right? So I've done that a couple times already, and that's working well.
Yeah, we at Offline Sharks this past week, we had to go through kind of an uncomfortable situation of where, the workload has changed in some of the things that we're doing in terms of our team. And so like we had to readjust things, and we had to let a couple people go. And we really didn't want to do it. We tried everything we could to not do it, but like, based on the budgets and what we're doing and all that stuff, like it just wasn't feasible. What was really nice was one of our RM members, I think Richie, was like, oh, I think I have some work for them. So like, it was really awesome to see like that to be able to happen. Right. Because, in business, things change. Like, I mean, things change all the time. Right. And,
Sure.
I know you always want to think like, oh, the business that you're building right now, like this is what it's going to look like down the road. And this, but man, there's so many things that happen and so much stuff that you can't plan for or predict that you kind of have to come to peace with like, okay, it may not look like this down the road, but this is what it looks like right now. And this is what we're doing, So it was, and that's the same thing you're just talking about, being able to find people that can come in and give those people work and help them out is awesome. Because, I mean, like even when it's necessary to the business and you're trying to run a business, like nothing about that situation feels good.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like nothing about it feels good, and even when you have, other, an operations person and other people to actually do it, it's still like, you're just like, ugh, and so yeah, that was awesome to see. So what services are you offering right now?
So web design, definitely doing that. Also SaaS. So very similar to, gosh, I think if Richie were on, we probably have very, very close businesses. So, running some reputation management is part of the SaaS model. SEO. I have not done a lot of, and somewhere I want to branch out, I'm not getting crazy and spreading myself too thin, but I definitely want to get, into PPC and stuff. And one of the things I have to do, I have a really good partner that will execute that for me. and actually I was turned on to them by a RM member, but is making sure that sell it appropriately, set expectations, etc. with that. So right now, web development, SEO, SaaS, and then on the horizon, PPC.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great services to have. There are two things I meant to mention to you earlier because you were talking about the reporting, not wanting to do reporting. I know Nick has been working on some awesome stuff with the agency team with the reporting and high level. And like, I'm not sure when we're going to roll that out, but since you're an RM, you'll be one of the first people to see that. But like, it's pretty good stuff. You may already have access to it. I don't know. Do you?
I'm going to have to take a look.
I don't know if he's talked about it yet, but he was mentioning it the other day. They've got a way, like anyway. So cool stuff. Keep your eye out for that. And then, you were talking about the PPC and the ad management stuff. So I only saw 3 people that said they were on the training Wednesday. What the heck, guys? Come on. Is that right? It was Jacqueline, Josie, and Sarah. Nobody else was on the training on Wednesday. So I tell you what, I'm going to show you something that I shared on that training. And then, because you mentioned PPC, and this is a question that we get all the time. Dorn was on of course, Dorn was on the training. Okay, Janice. Okay, more people. All right, that's good. If you didn't get a chance to watch the training, you should go watch it. I'll put a link to scroll along the bottom of the screen. You can check it out. But we were talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures, and what a difference they make in your business. And I want to show you the power of when you have something like that, when you have SOPs and frameworks that are built from a real working business. Like, these are not like PLR things that we bought or anything like that. Like, we spent a year, we hired a couple of people to help us do all this. So I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna share my screen for a second, and I'm gonna show you how you can use this to answer just about any common question that you would have. So you should be looking at my screen here, and what you do is, hold on one second. Let me find, where is it at? I think I was at the wrong place. So here we go. Where did it? Hold on. I got to do this. I should have pulled this up before we started. But. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you guys. Okay. So here, I'm going to share my screen again. So let's say that you want to do PPC. A question we get all the time when people are thinking about doing PPC is they can never figure out, well, how do you do the ad spend? Like, is that included? Like, when you say you're charging $1,500, does that include the ad spend? Does it not? How do you handle that with a client? Well, if you had SOP set up like we do in our business, then you could just do this. You could just go here. So this is our ad spend allocation policy, right? So we have a document that talks about that, how we allocate the ad spend, how to set the expectations with the client, how to respond when the client asks questions about the management fee versus the ad spend. Like, it's all here. So this is the power of these. Like, you don't, and this, this is how we handle the situation. So if you want to and we have this kind of stuff for just about anything you can think of, because we have a business that it's running right now. It runs every day. And so we have all kinds of stuff like this. So, it is really it is a vault, a massive vault of just all the information and answers to just about any situation you can find yourself in. And that's what we talked about on the training. I also went through some client getting stuff, and also we talked about building a team and things like that. So I'm going to scroll the link below the bottom here. If you go to offlinesharks.com, 6-figure side hustle, you can watch the training, catch the replay, check it out. If you have questions, let us know. And then I think what we want to do right now, Chris, I'm going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to bring back a segment that I have not done in a while. And that is a segment called What's Tom Reading? So I used to do this segment all the time on the show. And if you go to offlinesharks.com/books, I think you can see the books there. I don't know. One time I went there and they let me see if it got fixed. I should have looked at this too. But I haven't mentioned one in a while. But if you go to offlinesharks.com/book, yeah, you'll see a lot of books that we've recommended over the years on the live show. But the book I wanted to talk about today is, I don't think I've ever mentioned this book because I read this book a long time ago. And, but with the election coming up, I was like, oh, I should revisit this book. And you're going to think, oh no, Tom, don't get political. Don't worry. I'm not going to get political. This is nothing political, but whenever there's an election, and this is the same for business as well, whenever you're trying to look at business information, but elections, it always stands out to me because you always hear people throwing around statistics, right, Chris?
Yep.
I mean, 27% of this, 15% of that. Like we did 29%, like it's crazy. Like during an election and a political campaign, it is like crazy the statistics that are just thrown at you in ads and in speeches and all this stuff. And you always see like the fact checking and what's accurate and what's not. And so this is a book I read a long time ago that helps me navigate all that stuff, because I want to know, like, if I'm going to make a decision, I want to know, like, well, are those statistics believable? Is it accurate? Like, how do you know? Yeah. Business can be the same way when you're looking at, people post a lot of stuff about business trends and what's hot and, the economy and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, enough build up. This is a short read and it's by a guy named Daryl Huff, and it's called How to Lie with Statistics. Super thin. You can see super thin. This is an older book, and it is actually, it's really great because what they cover in here is all of the common ways that you can manipulate statistics in your favor. So I kind of put this book in with like logic. Like if I like to read philosophy books about logic and things like that. And so this book is kind of in that vein because like one of the things in here is they talk about, let me find a good one. Like they talk about like sample size, like how to see if it's a sample with a built-in bias, right? They've got a thing called the well-chosen average. So there's about 10 things in here, 10 ways that people can manipulate the data to put a statistic in their favor. And it's just really, I think, really handy to know this stuff, because whenever you see like business information and somebody's telling you like, this is a hot trend, just look at this chart, like you can then look down at the bottom and see like, because they'll tell you at the bottom, right? They have to say like how this chart was made. And like, when you know this stuff, you'll instantly be like, oh, that makes sense. You'll be like, oh my God, like this is BS. Like they're trying to yeah.
My grandma used to say that all the time growing up. There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Yes. Yeah. And, but anyway, this book, How to Lie with Statistics, Daryl Huff. And it's got like, I like it because it's got like comic book illustrations in it. So it's easy enough for even me to understand. But yes, you should check that one out. So I'm revisiting it. It's a good idea. If you've never read it, check it out as well. Also, let's do some shark shout outs. And then we have a member of the week, and also have a giveaway for some Cash App money at the end of the show. And then if you have any questions for Chris or for myself, if you have questions about the cash flow vault that we talked about on Wednesday, or SOPs or anything like that, feel free to pop those in the chat. Once I go through the shout outs, I'll look in there and we'll answer questions and things like that. So that being said, let me share my screen again. Oh, you know what? There's a couple of other things I need to do. I also want to give a shout out to our agency evolution members that are holding themselves accountable. So Barry, Brandon, Alan, Devendra, Pararik, DJ. So one of the things we do in agency evolution is we have an accountability check-in with all those members. And so we do a post, we have them share what they're working on, what they're doing to fix it, all those things. So these are all the members in agency evolution that checked in. So thank you guys. Big shout out. I did get a couple of questions too in the support desk about, and I saw somebody asking about this in the Facebook group too, like, you know, what's the difference between Remote Millionaires, Agency Evolution? We have the 100K Coaching Club. So let me just kind of give you guys sort of the short answer to that. So a while back, we launched a program called Remote Millionaires. And at the time, our agency was doing around $600,000. We were doing around $600,000 a year at the agency. And Remote Millionaires had all of the training and information about how we did that, right? We had built out a lot of SOPs, all that kind of stuff was in there. When we started scaling the agency to $1 million or more, well, in Remote Millionaires, we kind of went in that 600,000, and then we started approaching the $1 million mark. So Remote Millionaires really has a lot of information about that, how to get to multiple 6 figures, and then how we were going to 7 figures. Now the agency is growing over 7 figures, right? And we are on track to do 2 million, maybe a little more at the agency this year. So I guess it was last year or this year, maybe the beginning of this year, we launched a new version called Agency Evolution, which is really about all the information that we're doing there, going from 1 million, keeping to grow it, continuing to scale, continuing to build out, continuing to grow the team. So Agency Evolution is really all about how we do that, right? And then, of course, the 100K Club is if you're not making 100 grand, if you're not making 6 figures yet, that's what that program is all about. And, you know, they're all kind of priced accordingly. The 100K Club is super inexpensive. It's only like $97 a month. You get a ton of stuff with it. Agency Evolution is a much higher priced program, but it, you know, there's a lot of direct, you know, we have coaches in there. We've got us in there. Nick is in there. So, you know, there's a lot of direct communication with us and us helping members and things implement. So that's kind of the difference from that. And then one other thing I want to do before we get to the shout outs is welcome. Oh, hold on. Let me remove this. I want to welcome our new Agency Evolution member. So welcome, Peric. I hope I said your name right. Welcome to Agency Evolution. Excited to have you in there. Awesome to see you already getting involved in doing the accountability stuff. So great stuff. Okay. Got that out of the way. Shushan would have really been angry with me if I'd forgotten to do those. So I'm glad I remembered. Okay. All right. Let's do some shark shout outs. So I'm going to share my screen again. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, Chris, one of the things I wanted to dive into earlier that we didn't get to talk a lot about is since you have a full-time job, you're working 40, 50 hours a week, and you're working on the agency an hour a week. Like, what is your when do you typically spend that hour working on the agency? Morning, evening?
Well, again, because I'm so dedicated right now to the West Coast time zone. It's usually in the morning, but I'll be honest with you. And this is why I said it's kind of bleeding over to 2 hours and stuff. I have to be real careful about, you know, being a little bit jealous for the time with the family, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll go down to sleep and then I'll take maybe from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, you know, and stuff. But generally it's in the morning, right?
Generally in the morning.
Fresh, get up, exercise, put my day together and stuff like that. I've got good headspace, get my stuff done, and then jump into my full-time career and compartmentalize. And that was kind of the third thing right for me was time blocking. Have to time block. And I think it was either last week or the week before, you were talking about consistency, right? And time blocking for me is my way to stay consistent, right? So
yeah, that's so funny. My very next question to you was going to be, what tips do you have to stay consistent? Because
yeah.
I mean, like there were so many things we talk about, but like the crux of the problem for me is always consistency. Like, how consistent can I be at something, and how long can I keep it up? And so time blocking is the thing that you use.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's what I can attribute. I've had slow, steady growth, right? I hit my revenue goal for 2024. It's not huge.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
But I beat it by 10 grand. And I think doubling it next year is completely doable. And I've tried some launches and stuff to really just like throw gasoline on the fire and stuff. And some of them have failed miserably. But one thing that has not failed ever in this 18 months of doing this or whatever it is just being consistent, and the wins will be there. All things being equal, assuming I have good SOPs, assuming I'm doing good training for sales, and all the right things there, just being consistent, the growth will come. And that's what I've seen there. So a little bit of patience and a lot of bit of discipline.
Yeah, I think it's so important that you say that out loud and everybody hears that like, because I mean, we not only do we get clients in the agency, but like we also do internet marketing stuff. We do a lot of launches. Like when you're doing things like a launch, whether it's for an agency, a new service you're offering, or anything like that, there's so many things. There's so many variables, like timing and all that stuff is so much apart. Like I know you see people that are like, oh yeah, I do this launch, and like we've had uber successful launches, but they like, I don't know that it's like, yes, here's the reason they were successful is because we were consistently putting out launches, and we lucked into the timing of something that just resonated at that particular time, and it blows up. That does not always happen, right? And so like, even in what we do at Offline Sharks with putting out courses and products, again, it comes down to the consistency, not so much you just have to be consistent. I mean, yes, your products have to be good, your stuff has to be good, like all that stuff is a given, but you have to do it consistently, and in the agency as well. So that's awesome that you said that.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, look, let's, one thing, this is a weird thing I heard about the other day when we're talking about trying to stay with time. And you mentioned time blocking. Which time blocking is that? Basically like you just set, 45 minutes to an hour on specific days, or you say, I'm going to do this Monday through Friday. And then that's just like, you just have to be, really focused to make sure you just do it each day. Like going to the gym.
Like I'm a little bit, I hold myself accountable, right? Just like I would with project managers or something like that, and I grade myself. I look at the end of the week, I look at how many days was I hitting my time blocking, and was I pushing it off till 10, 11 o'clock at night? Because it's still got to get done.
That can be brutal. Like, holding yourself accountable can be brutal though, when you look back and you're like, oh.
Well, and so, I've got to be realistic with myself. We just finished remodeling our mudroom. It was time, and stuff like that. So it's understanding what's going on. We went to Florida for about a week and a half in April and stuff like that. So I have to be real and say, okay, these are the things that are going on. But if I see a long-term trend, like a couple weeks where it's like, hey, you're not hitting your time blocking, then Chris, we got to sit down and have a conversation with ourselves. What's going on? What are you distracted with? And then figure out how to get back on track. Because again, going back to wins and stuff like that, I'm a big user of reach, right? But part of that also, there is, while it's automated, it's running, it's doing all the heavy lifting, you still got to be following up. You still got to make your calls, your outreach, your emails. And so doing those things consistently, it matters, right? So I look at the long-term trends and I do grade myself.
Yeah, well, I think those two things you mentioned, if anybody out there is struggling with consistency and really struggling to even just spend 30 minutes, let alone an hour on your business Monday through Friday, the two things that Chris just gave are like gold: time blocking and tracking. Like, and you have to be serious about that. Like, you really have to sit down on Sunday and be like, how did I do this week? And like, just being aware is a big part of it. You know, before the show started, we were talking about losing weight, and you know, just the fact that I consistently track my body fat percentage, I make different choices because I look at that number every 2 weeks. Like every 2 weeks, I look at that number, and it's either going down or going up, right? And like sometimes it goes up, and I think, you know what? I get it. We were on vacation. I didn't really like. Then sometimes, you know, sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck? Like, I need to get, like, if it's going up more than 2 weeks in a row, I'm like, I need to like make an adjustment. And that's exactly what you're talking about there too.
Yeah.
So I think those two pieces of advice are great. The other thing I was going to mention was somebody told me about this thing called body doubling. Have you ever heard of this?
No, but
this is so weird. Okay, it sounds really weird. I have not done it, but a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you know, this is how I get stuff done." So there's like an app, and you go and you sign up for it. It's like a thing online, and whenever you want to work, you like turn it on, and it pairs you up with someone from somewhere around the world. Okay, and you instantly are connected, and you can have your camera on or off, and you can talk to them, and you start by saying, hey, like, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on this, this, and this for the next 45 minutes. And they tell you what they're going to work on. And then you just do it. You don't talk to each other. You're just like, they're watching each other while you work. And then at the end, you say, hey, well, what did you get done? How did it go? And they ask you, and then you're done. So it's like an instant accountability partner, right? And they can be working on whatever they want. So I thought that was an interesting idea. Jason wants to know, Chris, how do you even start and get going with only 1 to 2 hours a day?
Oh, that was a good question. Okay, so a little bit of truth in advertising. So the one thing is, I was really excited to get started right away, right? So December 2022, I hit the ground running. I was staying up a lot of nights, and I know you're like, oh, well, that's not your 1 to 2 hours. Okay, but it's like being in a survival situation or falling in, you know, a frozen river or something. You get a surge of adrenaline, and you got to use that short burst of energy to cover a lot of ground real quick, right? Mm-hmm. And I did that with offline sharks and my study. That was the first thing I jumped into, so that at least I had a baseline. That's how I got started, so that I could do that 1 to 2 hours. Now, let's say that was completely not possible, that even that burst of energy I still would have got that learning done, right?
Yeah.
And got the basis of the big picture of, okay, how do I prospect, what type of services, and how do I get a team to fulfill for me? Because in 1 to 2 hours a day, I'm not fulfilling enough to make a dent in my revenue goals, right? So, I used a bit of an adrenaline burst in the front, and did a lot of study, stayed up a lot of nights for about good 6 to 8 weeks. But I had to settle down, otherwise I would have gotten burnt out. And then I resigned myself to the fact that whether this takes 12 months, 24 months, or 10 years, I'm getting there, and I'm going to do it consistently. And once I started to see some fruits, even small fruits of my labor, like, that was the motivation that just kept me consistent. So how did I start get going? I used a burst of energy there. And what was it? Your first few wins, and yeah, it was getting those first couple clients, right? That gave me traction. And I was like, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah, like this is actually possible.
And I was the only person. I felt like I was the only person that knew it too. I was like, my wife, and rightfully so. She was, she's a smart cookie, and she was kind of like, I love you, Mr. Byrne, but what are you doing? and and I love her because she gives me that pressure test and all that kind of stuff. But that's what gave me. I was like, oh my God, this is going to happen, and that's where it's at. So hopefully, I answered Jason your question appropriately.
Yeah, and I think those are great answers, Jason. A couple of other suggestions I'd make to you as well is really think about what is going to move the needle the most in your business, and then map out like the night before, like just on a piece of paper. Like this doesn't have to be complicated. You just write down like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to do these 3 things.
Yeah.
Maybe make it only 2 things. Yeah. Look. Yeah.
I bought myself one of those Remarkables as a gift for hitting my revenue goals already. Yeah. And I use it exactly what you said, Tom. The night before, I write down what I'd like to get accomplished. I know the last time I was on, I did say, like, you've got to keep it realistic. Otherwise you're going to get discouraged, because you're not going to be, when you go to grade yourself, you're not going to be hitting achievable goals. So you have to make this stuff. You got to walk the line, in my estimation, between what is realistic, but still keep a bit of pressure on yourself to keep charging forward and not get complacent.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where it's so important to have somebody that's been there, done that before, and information that is like based around that, so that it gives you some kind of gauge of what really is realistic and what's not, and we talk about that in the training. So again, if you go to offlinesharks.com/6-figure side hustle, you can check that out. One last thing I would say, Jason, is, the simple thing that I learned from Jerry Seinfeld was, he has a calendar on the wall, and when he does something on the first day, he makes an X, and then the goal is to get as many X's without any breaks. And when he, stops, you just start again, right? Like, I know whenever I'm trying to do something consistent and I stop doing it, I like to beat myself up, and then I don't start again, when the reality is, like, who gives a shit? Just start again. Like, okay, I just start today. Like, I'm just going to start today, So anyway, that should help that. All right. Okay, let's do some shark shout outs, and then we're going to give away some Cash App money. So first up, we've got Mr. Randy Bett. Randy got a website refresh for a dentist, $1,064 Canadian. Awesome job, Randy. EG Buzz, $250 for a domain authority boost with .edu backlinks. Awesome work, EG. Paul Michael got his first featured premium listing, $49. Gave them a call a few hours after the 3rd email with the link for the free listing. So for those of you that maybe don't know, the way this is part of kind of like our reach machine that Chris talked about. And the way this works is we send them an email, offer them a free listing. When they click the link, we offer them a paid listing. So he gave them a call just a couple hours after the 3rd email with the link went out. She hadn't opened any of the emails, but he asked her to upgrade for $49. That comes with 15 benefits. And she's like, okay, let's do it. So awesome work, Paul. Great follow-up there.
Great job.
Sandy Alexander built an AI chatbot and put it on her site to test it out. She now has a lead. She got an email notification that a lead interacted with the chatbot.
Love that.
Awesome stuff, Sandy. Awesome stuff. That's a grand total this week for $1,077 of July 13th through the 19th. Since the start of 2024, $636,640. That seems pretty light to me, people. I know a lot more of you out there had wins. Go to the Facebook group, share them. Make sure you're sharing the recurring billing you're getting each month too as well. That'd be awesome. Let's get that total up. We want to cross $1 million in 2024. So good stuff there. One more thing. We like to reward a member of the week. And this week, our member of the week is Mr. Paul Michael for securing his first premium listing. So Paul, you're going to get an Offline Sharks treasure chest. It's kind of far away, but it's packed full of goodies. Only the recipients know what's in it. it's going to come to you. So congratulations, Paul. You've got that as well. And again, go check out the training that we did on Wednesday, offlinesharks.com/6-figure side hustle. I talked all about, the 3 pillars of a successful business: client getting, leveraging other people to do the work, and then the most, I think, the glue that holds it all together, the thing that makes all of that other stuff possible, the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. So make sure you check that out. It's only going to be up for a few days, so make sure you watch it before it goes away. And then finally, we're going to give away some Cash App money. So here's the deal. I want you guys to go and type in honor of Chris, who works a full-time job and still manages to get it done. I want you to type in #GetItDone. Put that in the chat, and then I'll do 2. We'll give away 2 $25 Cash App prizes. So here we go. I don't have any entries yet. 0. Oh, there we go. There's a couple. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a minute. Chris, anything you want to, any final thoughts or any final advice you have for anybody out there that may be looking to do what you're doing?
No, just so very thankful that we've got this community here and all the resources. I mean, I try to log on every week, and even if I'm multitasking, I'm listening in the background and stuff like that. So glad to see everybody here, and just thankful for the last 18 months being around the Sharks.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's been really awesome to see you come in, to watch you grow, to watch you get traction, and your willingness to just, to come on here and hang out and take questions and share what you're doing and all that stuff. Like, it's just really great to see that. We love it. So awesome stuff, Chris. Awesome stuff. All right, I'm going to do the first drawing. So our first $25 Cash App prize goes to Sean Matthew. Congratulations, Sean. And our second one, here it goes. I love how fancy schmancy this thing gets. Jason, hey, Jason Roberts.
There we go.
Congratulations, Jason. Somebody from the team is going to reach out to you. And oh yeah, Byrne said, I forgot to do this.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Cheating, bling, bling, got the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
We did it a little backwards there, but can't go out on a Friday without the money song, right? So awesome work, Jason. If you don't see somebody from the team reaching out in your DM, you can just send us your Cash App or your PayPal info, and we can get that taken care of. So, or you can just submit a ticket, offlinesharks.com/support. Now, again, this training is only going to be up for a few days. Go to offlinesharks.com/6-figure side hustle, and you'll be taken to this page where you can watch this training as well. So check that out. If you have questions, let me know. In the meantime, stay safe out there, practice Aloha, and we will see you next week on the Aloha Friday Marketing Jam session.
You've been watching the Aloha Marketing Jam session. We've helped thousands just like you start and scale their businesses. If you'd like our help to grow your business, go to the link on your screen now and let us know how we can help you. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this stream. We'll be back here next Friday for another live show. Until then, aloha.